So right now, Gazlowe Rework, and everybody's wondering, how do you play him? How does he work? He's different, probably a bigger rework than Diva, arguably. We're going to cover the talents on what seems to be confirmed. Most of the people right now are picking with some flexibility, but we're going to talk about some of the ways that you can utilize Gazlowe. One primary build, but we're probably going to readdress Gazlowe as time goes forward. But for now, let's talk about Gazlowe, okay? So if you didn't see the rework right now, you have no more mana. You only have scrap. And you can look at this kind of like Lieutenant Morales, because your W and your E no longer use mana, scrap, or anything. It's just cooldowns, straight cooldowns. The only thing that uses scrap, your turret, you've got 10. There's different ways to get more scrap. You've got 10, and you get this back. Your turret goes down. It only lasts for 15 seconds. It prioritizes the nearest enemy hero when it's created, so it's no longer randomly attacking hero or minions, but you can also retarget this still as per usual. Your laser, much shorter range, much faster charge after 0.65 seconds. So it's, even if you get interrupted, you can still cast it again. Kind of a weird thing. And then explodium charge, much faster, looks different, and it's a little bit different, but it still functions basically the same way. Robo Goblin and Gravo Bomb are still here. Gravo Bomb, shorter cooldown. Scrap doesn't work the same way in terms of getting the same cooldowns. Instead, now it's 1 scrap every 4 seconds. Destroyed turrets drop 1 scrap, which can be picked up. Still activates the same way before. So there's some new changes, mostly around your W and your E, and your Q now feels a little different as well. It's still what you expect, but split push Gazlowe, get that out of your mind. It's Bruiser Gazlowe time. Let's go. All right. So there's a lot of different ways that we've theory crafted. We've seen a lot in terms of how Gazlowe is being played, but there seems to be one build that's above others right now. I want to talk about those because a lot of it is about getting there. I do think there's a time and a place for big game hunter, and I do think there's a time and a place for one-man wrecking crew. Those are much less common, which is why we're going to focus on more of the meta build as you would right now. A lot of that is around this level 1 talent. Increase the cast range of Explodium Charge by 30% and its damage by 20%. This isn't a huge amount of damage because it's only 155 damage, but we'll talk about more of that later on once we hit 13 and beyond. Cast range is pretty cool, but also hitting an enemy hero increases movement speed by 20% for 3 seconds. Now, the cool thing about this is that the area is slightly different, but it also is much faster. Normally you had 3-second countdown, now it's 1.25 seconds. So it's easier to land this, and it's going to be even easier to land this here in just a second. So rocket boots right now, you have the cast range, which means that you still want to be as Gazlowe. You still want to go in and get plenty of auto attacks as Gazlowe, but you got to know when and where to get auto attacks. It's kind of like playing Alarak a little bit, is that you're really good if you can auto attack. If you can't auto attack, you'll probably land some combos to be impactful, but you got to get your hands dirty, right? The rocket boots gives you some, but it gives you that extra burst damage, which is going to help as later on because your combos and getting a lot more there. I think if you're going big game hunter, it's probably because you're going into an auto attack rocket turret build, and I think that does work. I played a game earlier where I was going against like a Tracer and Alarak and something else that was never going to be near me. So it was a really bizarre game. So again, these are less common. I don't really want to get into all of those combos, so we're going to focus on this. Level 4, there's pretty much only one that everybody's picking right now, and it makes a lot of sense. Hyper Focus Coils. Heroes hit by Death Laser or Explodium Charge take an additional 2% of their maximum health. Gazlowe is healed by 150% of the damage dealt. So that means that that comment I just made about getting your hands dirty and getting in there and smacking and going to town on stuff, this is how you can actually benefit from being in there. Because your W goes off, your laser goes off so much faster, you can generally do this at a pretty close range. Range on this is much shorter than it used to be, so you kind of have to be up in there. Your W and everything that's going to help you get in there is going to help a lot. Normally casting your E and then your W is how a lot of people are comboing right now, or just your raw W. All of these are really good, and there's a lot that goes in there. Is there a time and place for these other ones? Yeah, absolutely. We're not going to focus on that right now. We're going to talk about what's working in a lot of the games that I'm seeing and that I've played with so far. Level 7. I talked about pressing E then W. There's multiple ways that you can do this, but Master Blaster is really strong right now. Death Laser and Explodium Charge slow enemies hit by 35% for 2.5 seconds. So right now, one of the most common combos is to E then W. Hope your W goes off. You got to do this pretty quickly. You E, remember your E goes off after 1.25 seconds. Your W goes off after 0.6 whatever seconds. So you have like this small window. If you get your W off, it might be able to clip them and then force that slow. So that last little slow gets them stuck on the stun. That's been very common. That's what's going on right now. So that extra slow is really powerful. Turret basic attacks against enemies slowed in this way extend the duration by 0.25 seconds. Not a huge amount, but 2.5 seconds slow. Hitting that W so you can potentially land that E. Landing the E is a lot easier with a shorter stun time, but hitting W and then the E, if you press E then W, your W will slow them on top of that. That's where the value kind of comes in. So that's how you can kind of self combo before the big wombo combo that we're about to talk about. I actually don't mind Overload. Overload has 2 charges and you get cooldown reduction. Pair that with your level 4 and potentially the level 13 that we'll talk about soon. This can be good in certain situations. I would say that this does deserve some attention, more so than me skipping some of the other talents that I had previously mentioned about, they're not as common. This one's not as bad. I still would recommend this. That way you can set up your own combos. Really easy to get that. But if you're going against potentially a lot of melee, high health targets, then this now makes a lot more sense going with your level 4. But still, getting the slows and getting the combos, Gazlowe's still built around getting combos, and they're pretty big. Most of it is around Gravo Bomb. 60-second combo. After 1.5 second delay, pull enemies toward the center of an area and deal 220 damage. Basic abilities deal 30% more damage for 5 seconds after casting Gravo Bomb. Go back to our level 1 talent. Now you've got your combo. So pressing E and then R has never been easier. You don't even have to EWR. You E then R, and then you W that center area, and you are doing insane burst damage. So your ability, you now become more of an ability style. That's why I said you'll occasionally get some combos like an Alarak or something. You still got to get in there and smack. As a matter of fact, Robo Goblin with the bonus damage stacking is actually ridiculous. Having another cleanse, since there's a medallion right now, I don't think it's super important. So we'll get to that here in a second. So Robo Goblin can be good, plus the level 20 upgrade is insane. So activate to become unstoppable can be another unstoppable. You have your medallion now, so that can work, plus auto attack. If I'm going against like a Stitches or somebody that I know that can just kind of freely auto attack, I might go this, but still going Gravo Bomb is kind of where it's at. Because like if this is 80 to 90 seconds like it was before without the scrap cooldown, I'd be a little more suspect. But with this being at 60 seconds, like this is infinitely easier to land, does a decent amount of damage. And the fact that I get bonus damage, which means my combo now, I'm setting up kills. I mean, think about Mighty Gust, right? Because you don't pick Hinterland's Blast. I hope. So this is kind of like that. 60-second cooldown. Bless Shield, 60-second cooldown. I played a game yesterday where I Bless Shield, or as a Johanna, Gazlowe right behind me. Biggest wombo combo. Like we just hit him. Easy wombo combo. Everybody died. Like it was insane, right? This is one of the easiest things to use for follow-up. You can also set up your own combos. It works out incredibly well. So getting the bonus damage on your abilities, 30% bonus damage plus the bonus damage on this means that I'm wombo comboing like a maniac. I'm getting my W out, so I get bonus damage on my W, plus I'm getting percent damage, and all of that is working out really well. And then I get the slow after, immediately after, which is going to help. It makes it hard for them to run away. Do you think Robo Goblin can work in a lot of situations? I would recommend, though, if you're trying out new Gazlowe, to keep running Gravo Bomb, because this is going to be the one that you combo off of, and winning a team fight because of a wombo combo is much easier than winning a fight because you're auto attacking. Level 13, I do again think that all of these are viable. I'd say that Superior Schematics is kind of a weird one, very niche one. This, if you're going an auto attack build, can be fantastic. But going to the idea that wombo combo, I can be very active. Like these are short ability cooldowns, 12 seconds and 8 seconds. 12 seconds is kind of a long time, but it's not that big a deal when you look at how it functions with how you're using it. Getting the W and all of that damage. So now I get big wombo combos and a lot that goes on here. The spell power says Gazlowe gains 5% spell power for each active rocket turret up to a maximum of 15%. Dealing basic attack damage extends the duration of rocket turrets by 1.25 seconds. Now, this does require a little bit of preparation and a little bit of foresight, which can be harder, or I can just mindlessly press Q and get extra range, which still has value, and a little bit of extra damage or attack speed, which if I'm going Robo Goblin, I'm probably going this right here because it gives me more damage, and stacking that up quickly is pretty good. But overall, overcharged capacitors, getting that wombo combo, look, 60 seconds. I talk about it a lot on my stream. Cooldowns that are 60 seconds or less are there for every major team fight. I've been around a long time. I've seen a lot of things, and those cooldowns are always there. 70 seconds, pretty much always there. 80 seconds, maybe there. 90 plus seconds, those are ones that you have to be much more careful with when it comes to heroic timings. You look at the duration or the difference between fights, normally 60 seconds, it's there for every fight that you can imagine. You want to pick another fight and you're winning, boom, you've got it back in 60 seconds. 80, 90 seconds, don't have it as much. So meaning that I can wombo combo in every major fight is pretty good. But this also means that I'm getting value no matter what. Having a little bit of prep time. Normally Gazlowe good on objective areas, but now he's kind of good everywhere. He can even fit in the 4-man. He's not even that great in the solo lane right now. He's actually pretty good in the 4-man, but works well everywhere. So getting overcharged capacitors, getting a few Qs down, because remember, the build that you're going, because it requires foresight, your turret uses 4 scrap, you have 10 scrap. So because of that, you kind of have this weird area where like I can get 2 down, so I need to auto attack to keep those up if I really have that much time. You're not always going to have that much time. So some of these might be better, but if it's like a dive ball composition, you might not have that time. You throw 2 down, boom, you go. That could be enough, right? But if you can fight for a while, you get that 3rd turret down, you get an extra 5%, but I wouldn't sweat it. Get the 2 down, make it happen. Level 16, all of these are actually really good. I've seen all of these used. I'd say this is the most flexible one by far. But as far as the number one that's been picked right now, Arc Reactor seems to be the confirmation that a lot of people go with more often than not. Reduce the cooldown of Explodium Charge by 3 seconds. If I'm playing around a lot of spell power, and the 13, now I have a 9-second cooldown as opposed to a 12, and my laser is 8-second, which means I have my own little mini combo basically every time. Like a 1-second difference, I can wait that 1 second, I can EW and make something happen. Not only that, but casting Explodium Charge creates 3 miniature rocket turrets that last for 3 seconds, meaning that I have more priority target damage. So if I get into a situation where I press E, and now for duration wise, we're talking about 9-second cooldown, 3-second uptime on the turrets, which means there's only a 6-second downtime that I'm not benefiting from this talent, which is actually insanely good. So I have a level 16 talent, which gives me cooldown reduction and higher uptime on my damage, and therefore I have a 6-second downtime as opposed to a 12-second downtime where I'm getting more volume in terms of what I'm doing. So because of that, I think a lot of this works towards Arc Reactor, making sure that you get those turrets down so you get priority targets. They now target heroes as opposed to minions or whatever's closest, but you can also set them to target. So if I'm comboing somebody or big comboing somebody, make sure you also hit whatever key, 1 key or whatever it is you have, so your turrets automatically target what you're trying to hit. Overclock is actually insane. If you did go into a Robo Goblin build or even attack speed at 13, I think this is an okay one. If I'm going against like a Diablo and like a Deathwing, I'm not going spell power and trying to kill these guys. I'm smacking them with percent damage. I'm going to go attack speed and I'm going to hit them for 2.5% per. Not only that, but it gives me 15% movement speed to run away. I can smack and run, you know? There's a lot I can do with that. So getting an extra 2.5% per auto. If I'm auto attacking really fast, that's actually pretty scary for a lot of big beefy targets. If I'm doing it against one target, it better be like a solo Diablo and a triple range comp. I don't know what rank you're playing at, but normally getting cooldown reduction and getting the turrets, that gives you priority target damage off of that. There's only a 6-second downtime. As much as I tell you you need to auto attack and your 13 says you need to auto attack, let's be real, as a Gazlowe and a lot of melee assassins or bruisers now, you don't always have the luxury of just walking up and auto attacking. Here's one of my favorite heroes, does really good autos, but her auto attacks build is bad because you can't just sit there and auto attack as freely as you'd like. You're not built that way. So try and play around that. I have seen fire in my lasers. I think this is pretty cool. You got to go into a slightly different build to keep up time on your turrets, but it can work in the right situation. Level 20, pretty much whatever you want. is your oyster, but miniature black hole, it increases the radius and its damage. Remember, they buff the damage. They changed the damage, right? So you do 220 damage plus, that's level 0 value, plus you got the 50% bonus damage, which means a bigger combo. Each enemy hero pulled reduces its cooldown by 12 seconds. This is a 60-second cooldown. If I hit 3 people, it's back in 24 seconds. Now, if you've watched any of my videos, you know I actually hate level 20 talents that reduce heroic cooldowns unless it's by a wide margin. If I can hit 4 people, miniature black hole, 12-second cooldown on a heroic, now we're talking. 24-second cooldown, probably there for a late game fight twice, but very rare. You're normally trying to kill people with the first one, right? But it can work. So miniature black hole, the cooldown reduction nowhere near as important as the bonus damage and the radius. Getting that radius and the way this thing winds up compared to the old Gravo Bomb, I actually like this one a lot better. I think it's much smoother. Your E combo, and then of course getting the bonus damage on your abilities is pretty OP. So all that works together to get miniature black hole for potential playmaking, but it's more the radius and the extra damage that's going to have more of an impact than the cooldown. But if you land one of those big pog ones where you're hitting 4 to 5 people, bless you, and your team will love you. As far as everything else goes, bomb toss can be really good. You went the 16 talent, that also works even better. This is more, it's raining scrap, reduces scrap cost, regain 2 scrap. This can be really good for some of the other builds. It's more of like a unique niche build that you're running into. I will say, if you went Robo Goblin, basic attack, the Mecha Lord at level 20 is actually insanely strong. Basic attacks increase Gazlowe's armor by 10 for 10 seconds, up to a maximum of 30, so just 3 auto attacks, and deal 50% bonus damage to stunned or slowed enemies, which generally means that you've picked slow at level 7, or your E can get in there. So it's kind of like a follow through. I think it's less reliable overall, but the armor part is where it's really strong. So if you're going auto attack build and you've made it to 20, maybe you don't need armor because you're winning, but always keep in mind that armor is never a bad thing, especially when you have 30 of it. But that's it, man. Gazlowe is a lot different, much bigger rework than Diva. You got to be active. You got to get in there. You've got to manage your scrap differently since it only affects your Q. I found different ways to utilize this to trade out in different areas. I don't necessarily use this for wave clear. Your wave clear, as far as clearing a wave, is much different than it used to be. Split push Gazlowe, thing of the past. Get that out of your head. You're now battle bruiser Gazlowe. He's no longer an assassin, no longer a split pusher, can still marginally double soak, but nowhere near as good as he used to. You're not building turret town the same way that you used to. Everything about Gazlowe, you need to wash it out of your mind and start to play Gazlowe differently, and understand that Gazlowe can actually be really oppressive in a different way. He can do a lot of damage, most notably to bruisers, other bruisers, or high health targets with his level 4, and potentially your 16 if you have like again, it needs to be 2 really healthy targets, like a Deathwing and a Diablo, or a Deathwing and a Murd, and something that has 2 very high health pools there. Could even work versus a Urel. So there's a lot of things you got to consider in that realm, but playing that to where it's E at 1, getting that bonus damage in the cast range and the movement speed helps. Getting this is pretty much 100% pick rate in every game that I've seen. Getting the 2% damage off of your laser and your stun, big damage, plus you heal for that damage, which means that you can fight a lot longer and a lot stronger. Hitting multiple people with your W feels good. Getting the slow to set up your own little mini combo can be really strong. Gravo Bomb into the overcharged capacitors to set up that big wombo combo, support your team, get that damage out into Arc Reactor, into Miniature Black Hole, and you've got yourself right now probably the most meta build that's being played at mostly higher ranks, and I think for good reason. Get that combo in by pressing W, E, you're there. Gazlowe, for what it's worth, so far, kind of works everywhere. Normally, I'd say Gazlowe is pretty good on a couple of maps. I think right now, like, Gazlowe's pretty decent in most places. We'll see some of the data that comes out, but I think Gazlowe is a pretty good hero right now. Him and Diva both had very successful reworks. I also think a lot of people just haven't gotten used to Gazlowe's new stun. So I think as people get used to playing against Gazlowe, you'll see a pullback on some of the win rates right now. But a lot of people seemingly keep getting stunned by Gazlowe's new Explodium charge because it's faster, much faster, twice as fast, more than twice as fast as the old one. So there's some things about that. But this is the build you should be trying. Don't try and force the auto attack build. Don't try and force a turret build. Stick with something that gives you good burst damage from your abilities, that you're still sustainable in every team fight because you have heals, that gives you a combo that supports your team instead of going out there to try and be like, look at me, I did bonus damage on auto attacks. Nobody cares. You're a bruiser now. Bruisers are known for doing damage, but also setting up their team. Pretend like the tank should be the setup person. The bruiser is part-time setup person, part-time damage dealer. If you play Gazlowe where the sole purpose of you doing damage, you'll do damage. But you better hope that there's a heck of a lot of other people that are also setting stuff up. So there is flexibility based on your team, but in terms of the bruiser role that you're assigned, look to do damage, but look to help continue to support your team and try and make that work. So that's Gazlowe in a nutshell. So we'll see if things change over time. But I think right now, I've been watching other people play. I played it myself, and I think right now this is Gazlowe, and hopefully this works for you.